We want to bring in CBS News senior political editor Steve Chaggaris in Washington to help sort through it all. And I want to start with those comments that Mr. Trump made in defense again of Vladimir Putin. And Steve, as he seemed to draw a defined moral equivalency between Russia and the United States. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell was just one of several lawmakers who are now breaking from those remarks. How damaging, if nothing else, is this between the president and now a GOP leadership he'll have to rely upon?
Well, I mean, I think there's still a bit of a honeymoon period going on between Republican leaders and President Trump. I mean, this is just 2 weeks into the administration. They have a lot of things they do agree on. But the question is how many more of these questions are these Republican leaders going to have to answer? The barrage of uncomfortable questions about things that Donald Trump has said and is doing, and how much longer can they really put up with going on Sunday shows and being asked questions by reporters and, frankly, by constituents about these uncomfortable things that Trump is saying? That's going to be the big question, is how long are you going to last doing that? Is this going to be something that they put up with now while they try to get some stuff they agree on through Congress? Or as we get closer to the election, are they just going to say, forget it? We're tired of answering these questions. We're tired of trying to defend this guy, and we're just going to throw him under the bus and worry about our own political futures.
I mean, look, Steve, I realize perhaps this is just the most recent one, but in allowing for there to be an equivalency established between the United States and Russia, essentially the president called, at least seemed to suggest, the military were killers on par with Vladimir Putin. That seems to be something, a bridge further from just uncomfortable.
Right, and it seems to be that none of these people can explain what Donald Trump is saying or defend it. I mean, you watched Mike Pence, the vice president, really trying to answer these questions yesterday. And again, they're going to be put out there to answer these questions that are things that they haven't said, but about what the president is saying. So the question is the vice president, Republican leaders, Republicans up and down the ticket in November of 2018, when are they going to be sort of sick of trying to answer these questions and trying to defend Donald Trump on this stuff? That's going to be the ultimate question. You saw McConnell trying to distance himself from this. But at the same time, they know they need the president to get some stuff done they want to get done. So, again, it's a very, very uncomfortable moment for a lot of Republicans. How much longer is this going to last before it all shatters?
Okay, so then we have that optical fallout, if you will. Meanwhile, do you feel as though the travel ban at this point has become a political obstacle for an administration that may want to get more things done, but simply cannot, if nothing else, because of all the attention that must be paid to these legal issues all across the country?
I think generally Donald Trump has to be very careful about what he's done over the last couple of weeks in terms of dealing with Congress. I think he's approached this as, I'm the CEO of the government, quote unquote government, and I'm going to basically move forward with the things that I want to do and not really take fully into consideration what Congress and others how they're going to react to all of this stuff. And I think that's troublesome for Trump in the sense that, if he really upsets too many people early on, then how does he expect to get things done throughout the 4 years of his administration? It's interesting. I look back at Bill Clinton's first year in office, and people forget that Clinton's first year in office was very, very rocky. He came out of the gate naming Hillary Clinton to run this healthcare group to sort of put together healthcare legislation. He went out with Don't Ask, Don't Tell as one of his first policy moves, very unpopular things. And it took him a good year to really sort of get things settled before Congress was really on board. And after that, of course, the Republicans took over Congress. But Democrats asked a lot of questions about the beginning of his administration. I think you're going to start seeing that with Republicans if Trump doesn't start to right the ship on some of this stuff. I think, going at this as I'm running the government is really not the way to get things done.
We saw James Baker as well say to Politico, and I'm paraphrasing here, but his advice: stop blowing up the U.S. relationship with Mexico. Don't expect them to pay for the wall. Don't act as Israel's lawyer. Don't be an isolationist. Support NATO. Do a better job of working with Congress and even your own cabinet. That seems like a pretty big to-do list.
Yeah, you remember when he said, "I alone can fix it," during his convention speech. I mean, that doesn't really work. It doesn't work that way, and I think they're slowly figuring that out. But it's only been a couple of weeks. But if he doesn't really figure that out and start to work with Republicans in Congress and Democrats in Congress, it's going to be really interesting to see how much of this stuff he can actually get done.
The New York Times has some reporting today in a story that the president, in part, will now be read in on executive orders earlier than before. What does it suggest then had happened prior, and what do you make of the change?
Well, I think as we saw with the travel ban, it was very clear that whether he was read in or not, it was something that was not implemented very smoothly, to say the least. And so I think there's a sense that that was a big mistake. And moving forward with these executive orders, they want to make sure everybody's on the same page before they go forth on this stuff. There's the cybersecurity executive order that still hasn't been signed yet. It involves almost every part of the executive branch. One of the reasons why they haven't signed it likely is because they want to make sure everybody's on board. These rollouts are a big thing. If you're going to make these big changes in policy, you've got to make sure everybody's rowing in the same direction. Disastrous
rollout is actually something that President Obama and his administration knew well of as it regarded the Affordable Care Act. And interestingly, in that same interview yesterday with Bill O'Reilly, the president has now said that the ACA's replacement could come, in fact, sometime next year. That is certainly a change from that which had been previously touted. What do you make of the rolling back of that timeline yesterday?
Oh, well, a couple of things. I think you're going to see people who supported an immediate repeal of Obamacare start to either scratch their heads or raise real alarms on this. The fact is they anticipated this was going to happen quickly, swiftly, and then they deal with the consequences later. Well, that clearly now, based on what Trump is saying, may not be the case. And I think you're going to see a lot of people who support the repeal of Obamacare ask a lot of really serious questions of lawmakers on the Hill, Republican lawmakers, and of the White House and say, what is going on here? This was your big promise, and now you're going to delay this until maybe, or it's going to take as long until the next election year. We know how things happen. They slow down significantly once you get closer to an election. You need to get this done now.
Steve, I got to get you out of here, but to the victors go the spoils, or maybe a couple extra seconds. Oh, my goodness. But look, 28-3 midway through the third quarter. Steve, be honest with me. Be honest with me. You'd given up hope.
I was hoping that they would make the game interesting, and when they made it 28-20, I said, well, this is good. You know, at least it's going to be interesting. And I did not have any thought that they were going to come back and win this thing. But, you know, the one thing about the Patriots, there's no question it's a team that plays until the very end of the game. And they had that Atlanta defense, an amazing Atlanta defense, gassed by the end, and the Patriots somehow figured out a way to do it. I met Belichick a couple years ago. I said, why do you have to give Patriots fans heart attacks with all of these Super Bowls? Previous to this one, they were all within 4 points.
Yeah.
This one went to overtime. Another heart attack last night, but it was so much fun.
Have you washed the hand that you shook his with since?
Yes, just once though.
Can you get rid of that knit cap over your right shoulder? Can we?
No, we're going to keep it. We're going to keep it there for the year until next year's Super Bowl. I hope you don't mind.
Well, that's awful, but that's for another segment. Steve Chaggaris, as always, we do appreciate it.
Thanks, Josh.